What's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of B is for Boat. In today's episode, we are working on the pontoon yacht. Specifically, we're working on mounting engines into our pontoon yacht. This is gonna get a little complicated in today's episode. So we started this boat by taking a lot of sets of pontoons and cutting them up and rearranging them, welding them together, make extra long pontoons so we can build our 44-foot long quad-tune pontoon boat. The next thing we did was build a massive hot tub enclosure that lives in the front of the boat. And then finally, we've now connected it all with custom decking and stringers and mounts to bolt it all to each other. And then it's time to weld it all up. Which brings us to today, where we're gonna be mounting we've got twin inline six supercharged Mercury Verados. They're both 250 horsepower engines. So we've got 500 horsepower worth of power going into this boat, which might be a little extra, but that's okay. That's how we do it here. And we're gonna actually mount them in an inboard-outboard configuration. Outboard-inboard configuration? It's outboard engines that are being mounted inboard, which I've never seen done on a pontoon before. So we're kind of pushing the limits of like what is traditionally done. Will it work? We don't know. We got to get on the water beforehand. There's been a lot of questions of will it work on this boat, and a lot of stuff is yet to be proven out. But we're going to get to all that, and in today's episode, we're going to get these engines mounted to our boat. Let's get started. So the boat looks a lot different than the last time we left it because I have been gone and the guys have been working away. You can see it's up on stilts, which is amazing, and it is all welded out. Last week I was fortunate enough to go to Monaco, which is like, I don't know, 10, 15,000 miles away from here, to watch the Monaco Grand Prix, which I documented. I made a video about how to go watch a Formula One race on the cheap, especially the most expensive Formula One race in the world on the cheap. I put that on the second channel. It's called Behind the Build. I got a link in the description down below if you want to go check that out. It's a pretty cool little scene. So I was gone for the last week, and here's what the guys did. Let me get you caught up.
The first really big task at hand was welding everything out. So first, to do that, got to take the whole entire boat apart. That's right, every single stringer, every single bolt had to be undone so we could get access to the hot tub box all the way around. This thing needed to be welded out full 360 on every single seam, and then as you're going to see later on, we got to water test it as well. We found out that TIG welding just by hand rather than using the spool gun was better for these watertight welds because you can go a little bit slower, pay a little bit more attention to the weld as it's moving through, and have that confidence that it's going to be watertight. So after all the seams were TIG welded up, it's time to start water testing it, filling up this massive thing which weighs thousands and thousands of pounds when full of water. Worth mentioning, when we're on there, the hot tub goes inside this and then the hot tub gets full with water, so it's never going to actually have that much water on it. Once we identified all the leaks, it's nice to mark them down with a little Sharpie so you know where they all are, and then come back in and TIG weld them up. Now that the hot tub box is waterproof, it's time to basically rebuild the boat, put all the stringers back in where they go, bolt everything back down so all the pontoons are perfectly aligned, center the hot tub box in the pontoons vertically and horizontally, and then smash them into those center pontoons so we can start welding them all the way around. One of you viewers mentioned something that we also did in this episode, which is we added pressure and a pressure gauge to each cell or each section of the pontoons to make sure that they were completely airtight. So before we had tried pressurizing them and doing soapy water, but this was a more thorough method of doing that. So we built a device that could pressurize the pontoon and leave it with a pressure gauge on it overnight, and then we could return to make sure it has the exact same amount of pressure as when we left. So we did that on every single section of each of these pontoons to make sure they're fully airtight. The next thing that we needed to do was build a structure to support this boat so we could move it around the shop, roll it in and out of the shop, and eventually be able to pick the boat up as a whole unit, maybe crane it up to get it onto the shipping truck. So a lot of you guys have asked, how are we going to get this boat out of the shop? The boat is more narrow than the garage door by 2 inches, so we can sneak it through the garage door, but to do that, we're going to need to be able to roll it. And we needed to be able to build more support because as we added weight, our simple 2x4 supports were just only supporting the boat in a few inches, and I wanted to support it across multiple feet of multiple sections of the boat. So the guys have developed a system here using 4x4s running across the entire width of the boat with multiple 4-foot long supports in 3 sections on the boat, which is going to be a great way to support the boat, and then we can lift it and raise it, and we put it on dollies, so right now we can roll it around the shop.
And that leads us to where we are today. The boat is stilted up so we can start to get the engines in the right spot because the engines sit lower than the boat. We have a little bit more reinforcement. We were just talking about this morning in our own little meeting internally that we're going to be doing right there. But let's get down to work. So these engines, we don't know a ton about them. I bought them used off of a very popular online auction site that doesn't sponsor any of our car channels anymore. I don't know what happened there. And it's a pretty good deal. It's like $9,000 for both of these engines, and they are shipped here. They're relatively normal miles. They're like 1,200 miles on each engine, and we'd love to get them running. Love to learn more about them. I've never messed with a boat engine. Kyle or Oscar, you guys ever messed with a boat engine? This is a big learning experience for all of us, and we're really excited to just jump into it. So they got shipped to us like this. They come with controls, they come with ECUs, they come with steering stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we have yet to unravel so we can learn about it. But first steps first, let's get them, we're gonna work on getting them bolted to the boat, and then we can start trying to manage the rest of the stuff. It would be really fun to get these things fired up. So Oscar has went ahead and found the eyelet for the lifting spot right here. I'm gonna also go ahead and look through the documentation to see if we find a second one. But what we're gonna go ahead and do is get one of these things up in the air so we can start mocking it in the area. In the schematics, I have all the other details of exactly how this thing gets mounted to the boat. But for now, we need to kind of start to see it in place so we can start to learn from it. So I'm also going to go through, like I said, the user manuals and look and see if I find another one of these guys that isn't bolting to this. And if not, we'll just lift it by that. All right, guys, we got past that exciting, dangerous point. That stand weighs almost as much as the engine. It's very, very heavy. Now we got both things free, so we could start kind of getting this thing closer to the boat for mock-up land. So there is a computer-aided drafting of a thing that I invented to mount an engine to the back of a pontoon. Let's get the engine close to the pontoon and see if my idea is going to be able to be a reality, see if that's a good method. One thing I will note, though, the engine is not straight up and down. It needs to be. We will get it there. We're just running to the hardware store to buy some tools. We got the engine in a good spot. I just want to give a shout out to Tom's Tunes. We were just double checking what we thought based off of his videos. He's got a bunch of really great information out there about pontoons. We're sponsored by some of the same companies as well. Seems like a really cool guy and has been teaching us a lot as we've been going through this. I guess it's worth mentioning too, is like, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here on anything except for when it comes to putting a hot tub and then 4 pontoons. So basically like half the boat, but the other half of the boat, we are trying to follow general knowledge. So we are basing this off of how you would mount a tri-tune engine mount. So if you're doing a standard pontoon, you got one on the outside, one on the outside, your engine mount's right in the middle. There's a lot of differences in water level and stuff like that. If you're doing a tri-tune, or in our case, a quad tune, your water, when you're at plane, is gonna be coming right off the bottom of this thing. It should be a planing hole. It should be coming right off the bottom. So we're looking at our cavitation plate right there, being level with the bottom of our center tunes that we are mounting to. That way, when we get up and going and we're on plane, we're not cavitating these engines in any way. A little bit of a hit on shallow water performance, but I don't play with shallow water around where I am. I try not to, at least.
Not with this big of a boat.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually, cut to us beaching the boat the first time we went out. Yeah, okay, whatever. Accidents happen, whatever. Pontoon boats are better at being beached. Anywho, so rotationally too, we mocked up the mounting plate right where it is, tried rotating the engine. We are good there, so we've got enough kick both ways. So I'm feeling good. It's time to start. We're still waiting on our on some tooling so we can straighten out this engine, but I think it's time to do two things. One, well, here's the biggest thing we got to do right now. We got to lift the boat up in the air a little bit more. As we are right now, we can't get the engine low enough. It will hit the ground. So we're going to go ahead and lift the back of the boat up a little bit more. While we're doing that, I'm going to start cutting a little bit of cardboard out and do some cardboard aided backup design to verify our original design. So we got the engine all mocked up here, and we totally redesigned how we wanted to mount this. We really wanted to tie into these things. They're really strong On these pontoons, they're welded all the way fully out. And then the stringers also bolt into them. So there's a lot of good structure there. So we came up with the design idea to take 2x2. So we're going to use the full square tube. This is just C-channel for mock-up because it's easier to clamp down. We're going to run it across there and we're going to weld integrate it into there. So it's going to be welded into there to integrate it in. From there, we can gusset it into other things as well. It comes off. Then we're building down to hold a plate that will go across here horizontally, and then it'll also be welded solid into the base of this thing as well. And then we're going to gusset it from here to here as well. So lots of gusseting. We're going to do this all out of 1/4-inch aluminum. Everything that I saw online for engines between the 200 and say 350 horsepower range was all 1/4-inch aluminum. But we're going to be backing that up with some 1-inch by 3-inch supports as well internally. So a lot of good strength is going to be built into each one of these. But to do this, first we got to go ahead and move the engine out of here and cut this thing off the bottom. Not sure what these are for, probably to mount like sonars or other little gadgets and gizmos that people mount onto the backs of their boats. But on those ones especially, we don't need it. So we're going to go ahead and move the engine back. We're going to cut those off, and then we're going to start prepping our aluminum pieces. They're being cut and purchased right now, and we'll prep up that 1/4-inch aluminum and get it ready. Guys got the pieces cut and trimmed up, so they got to be welded off the boat first and kind of assembled, and then we can weld them onto the boat. So this is kind of the picture here to match the curvature of the back of the pontoon here. So you've got the nice dish out of here and out of here, and then there are these like supports that are going to run here and here. Kyle's got one of those coming in here, and this is just some quick stock that we found, and that is going to help, it'll disperse the clamping pressure and everything across the mount better. This is a little overkill, but it's better to be overkill than underkill. So the hard part of doing all this though is that we got to get all this in here to match up with the mounting face that the engine has, and that also so when we do mount it up there that the engine is within spec for the height that we want. These engines have, as you can see, a good 2.5 inches of adjustability, but we'd like to nail it on the first try. The engine mounts are all put together, all welded up. Oscar's welded them all around the sides. It's a little hot, can't touch it with my hands right now, but it's all welded around the sides. There's a little notch right there for this guy to get in here. And then for bolting holes to bolt the engine to that. So now this welds into the back of here. These get welded along there, weld everything up, and we should be able to bolt an engine to the back of our pontoon. Check it out! We mounted an engine to a pontoon. That is super cool. So it's nice, it's sturdy. Oscar skipped a washer. These bolts are temporary until we buy the spec bolts. It's pretty cool. In the owner's manual, they got exactly the bolts they want you to use and everything like that. But yes, engine number one mounted. Starboard engine is mounted to the pontoon. This is rad. We're 250 horsepower right now. We're going for 500 by the end of the day. Oscar's gonna start welding this bad boy in right here. Kyle and I are gonna figure out how to get this thing off of this onto this, and we'll get it right onto there as soon as Oscar's done welding. So you guys remember when we said we were gonna learn as we go on this project and that we don't know everything? Here's a prime example of that. So one engine we made the template off of and everything. We built it and we got this nice little notch right here and it just fits in here perfectly. All good. Then we come over to engine B and it has the pneumatic steering cylinder on here and it takes up a good amount of space. So we're gonna have to make a little bit of a trim, a little bit of a modification to our port side pontoon engine mount thing, and so we can clear this this guy right here. It's like this. It's just a steering piston. It takes power steering fluid, and it's just a hydraulic ram.
Yes,
it's a hydraulic ram. And then what we realized too is that this is the mounting spot right where something comes off of here and ties into the other engine to keep them in unison. So these aren't the types of engines where they can each move in their own direction. Some boats are super fancy and can do that. This is not that type of engine. So we're gonna go ahead and probably snug this guy up there a little bit, make a little trim here and there, make some space for our steering cylinder, power steering cylinder, and then we should be able to mount it up. You guys watching at home, you probably were yelling at your screen. You're like, not yet, don't trim that. Did you check? Luckily, this little stutter made us actually think through a few more steps. One of these engines is counter-rotational, and the counter-rotational engine needs to be over here. That happens to be that engine right there. So we've got to take this engine, put it over here, then trim out that to make room for the power steering, and then put that engine over here, which is nice because the controls are over there, meaning the power steering lines will be a little bit cleaner and a little bit shorter of a run. And when you're talking about expensive pressurized hydraulic lines, every foot does count as well. So we saved ourselves from trimming out extra on this and then having to switch it over. Now the sad thing is there's no real good way to set these engines back down once we have them up. So we got to install it back on the metal crate thing and then get it set down gently, pick this engine, place it, then trim over there, and then lift this engine back up and put it over there. Whew! What a way to end the week. I don't know if it's gonna show up on film, but this now looks like a ridiculous amount of engine for this boat, which I am really excited about. Who knows if we're gonna have the cojones to get it going top speed. But the moment of truth, we gotta test this part out. Full swivel. I was trying to leave an inch there, but you got a little bit more than an inch because I was measuring for the max outside, right? So pretty good though. We can full swivel, we can full tilt these things. All right guys, well I'm pretty stoked about how we mounted these engines. I'm feeling very confident that they're not gonna break off and become anchors. And it's looking good. Our swivel's looking good, our tilt angle is looking great. I'm super happy about how this came about. We've got a little bit of reinforcement and gusseting still to do, but the most part of it is there. The boat is holding 500 horsepower worth of engines, another 1,200 pounds off of the ground and onto the boat, I guess. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the future episodes, like when we fire these engines up. That will be coming very soon. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for all the support. Check out our merch over at bsforbuild.com. We have BS for Boat shirts, BS for Yacht shirts, I Make Bad Decisions shirts, all sorts of great stuff. And thanks for dealing with the crazy amount of jet lag that I have in this episode, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace!